Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Whether or Not. I'm your host, Brian Michigan, alongside our forecaster, Jimmy Wendolek. Now, Jimmy, this past week has had its moments of unsettled weather. Can we expect that trend to continue through this spooky Halloween weekend ahead?
We sure can, Brian. It looks to be a wet and cool start to the weekend, but we could see conditions improving on Sunday and just in time for trick-or-treating.
Sounds great. I look forward to figuring out when will be the optimal time to go trick-or-treating. But before that, let's jump right into nature in the news. For this week's show, I'll be doing stories about how an endangered whale species is further declining in numbers, as well as how dinosaurs were discovered to once be a very social species millions of years ago. What about you, Jimmy?
For this week's show, I have stories about melting glaciers in Africa and potential water pollutants in California.
Very nice. And with that, let's jump right into nature in the news. Millions of years ago, dinosaurs were known to have dominated our planet. Despite the tragic extinction event at the end of the Cretaceous period, we are still learning more and more about them each year. Recently, scientists have uncovered fossilized eggs and skeletons in Argentina that indicate that some species traveled in herds. These herds included about 80 individual skeletons varying in sizes, with some dinosaurs being newborns all the way up to adults. Scientists were able to identify the species of dinosaurs called Massasaurus, and this is the only place that the species has ever been found. Before this discovery, information about the Massasaurus was very slim, but the fossils give away a great deal of information about the social behaviors of these animals. This discovery even helped scientists determine that dinosaurs like these could have been traveling in herds millions of years before they previously thought. It just goes to show that even the most intimidating of dinosaurs needed companions by their side each and every day.
Glaciers can be found around the globe, including on Africa's tallest mountains, but climate change is threatening to erase them from the continent. The three glaciers, one in Kenya, one in Uganda, and one on Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, are melting faster than the global average. According to new studies, this could lead to their disappearance by 2040, and scientists are viewing the glaciers as symbols of more widespread change. Much like the glaciers, the continent is warming at an alarming rate. Famine, drought, and flooding have been persistent issues in the region, and yet Africa is responsible for less than 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Studies show these effects will continue to worsen, leaving up to 118 million people exposed to severe heat and hunger. Severe economic effects will plague the continent as well, with gross domestic product expected to drop by 3%, and adapting Africa for climate change could cost $50 billion per year by 2050.
Whales are some of the largest and most majestic creatures currently living on our planet. However, the threat of many of these species becoming extinct is very high. One of these species is the North Atlantic right whale, which has a population of only 336 as of 2020. In 2019, this species was recorded to have 366. This is a 10% drop in population in only 1 year, and according to scientists, the current population is at its lowest point in nearly 2 decades. The reason for this sharp drop in population is due to the commercial whaling era, which fortunately has been outlawed by now in the United States. Other threats include getting tangled in fish nets and even collisions with ships. Unfortunately, whales that do survive any of these encounters usually end up far less healthy and will become weaker over time before dying out. Furthermore, with poor reproduction and high mortality rates in the recent years, the species of North American right whales has struggled to recover. It is more important now, more than ever, that real change must be done in order to save this population, not only for the North American right whale, but species all over the world at risk of extinction.
Pollutants are threatening drinking water in California. Since the early 1900s, oil and gas companies in the state have been storing waste in pits in the ground. New research estimates that more than 5.9 billion barrels of produced water containing heavy metals and radioactive materials were stored beneath the earth between 1900 and 1980. Putting this material back into the ground provides a direct pathway for oil and gas to reach groundwater. Groundwater is extremely important in this region of the country. Studies show that millions of residents rely on groundwater wells, and the agricultural industry has long turned to groundwater for their crops. Protecting this water is becoming more important over time as severe drought depletes the state's already limited water supply. Therefore, any pollutants that do reach groundwater could spell catastrophe for local communities. Student meteorologist Jimmy Wendolek here with your short-range forecast, taking you through what should be a very wet weekend throughout the region. Grab an umbrella as you head out the door on Friday. Low pressure to our southwest brings periods of rain to the Commonwealth throughout the day. Now also grab an extra jacket, as high temperatures will be a few degrees below average, which is a nice change of pace from the more spring-like conditions we were seeing earlier on in the month. Now, our low pressure is stubborn, doesn't move much Friday night, meaning we are still dealing with showers Saturday, especially earlier on in the day. We could see those showers diminish as we move into the afternoon and evening, as that low pressure finally kicks up to our north. Now, that makes Sunday the best looking day of the weekend. Could see some sprinkles around earlier in the morning, but we should be mostly cloudy by the time we get to the evening, which is great news for any parents or trick-or-treaters for Halloween. For the full weekend forecast, periods of rain arrive on Friday with that high temperature below average at 51 degrees. So it's a cool day but a warmer night compared to average, low of 47, with steadier rain continuing into the overnight hours. Those showers are still around on Saturday, especially early on in the day, with the high temperature jumping up into the middle 50s. For Saturday night, a few showers linger around with a low of 49. And on Sunday, we finally begin to dry out. High temperature jumps up even higher to 58 degrees, with mostly cloudy skies and a 100% chance of some great costumes and some delicious candy. That's it for our short-range forecast. MJ is coming up next with a feature on Hurricane Sandy.
Over the previous 10 hurricane seasons, 21 named storms have made landfall in the United States, but one tropical system in particular would provide a memorable and devastating moment for Pennsylvania, and much of the northeast United States as well. For even though it has been 9 years since its occurrence, Hurricane Sandy's impact on how society views and prepares for tropical storms is still felt to this day. On October 22, 2012, a tropical depression formed off the coast of Jamaica. This depression would rapidly intensify, allowing it to earn the name of Hurricane Sandy. Sandy initially made landfall off the coast of Cuba early on October 25th before continuing along the Atlantic coast. Despite losing some of its intensity, Sandy would push forward, finally turning northwest and making landfall in New Jersey on the evening of October 29th. When it comes to looking at the past, present, and future of hurricanes, Dr. Anthony Didlake is just the professor to speak with. He specializes in tropical meteorology at Penn State University. Didlake remembers Sandy's occurrence quite well.
Yeah, it was an incredible and scary storm. I think over time, it was really clear that it was going to make a left hook turn into the Northeast U.S. And so that was pretty scary thought because we know that the Northeast, is very populous and it's also very vulnerable for these types of storms. And, eventually the impacts panned out, unfortunately, how we feared.
The impact of Sandy would be devastating in the short and long term. Over 200 people died from Hurricane Sandy, making it the deadliest hurricane to hit the East Coast since Hurricane Agnes in 1972. The total amount of damage caused by Sandy was estimated to be at a figure of around $68.7 billion, making it to date the fifth costliest hurricane ever. From a meteorological viewpoint, Sandy did something else that made it stand out from most hurricanes as well.
It was an amazing storm and just in terms of how it evolved internally. Normally storms that are going out to the east undergo an extratropical transition from tropical cyclone to extratropical cyclone. But Sandy did something that we had never seen before. It merged with a mid-latitude storm that was going across the country. I mean, that merging created basically an inner core that was the tropical cyclone, but then an outer core that was more mid-latitude cyclone. And we had never seen this before.
Sandy had not been the first hurricane to have a major impact on the United States. nor would it prove to be the last. But Sandy's effects would not quickly be forgotten. For years after its occurrence, efforts would be made to restore the Jersey Shore, a stretch of land containing renowned beach towns such as Cape May, Ocean City, and Atlantic City. The U.S. government would provide over $50 billion in relief for states affected by Sandy as well. Sandy would also spark many conversations about climate change and whether this incident would go on to be the rule or the exception. For meteorologists, Sandy would not leave them unaffected either. In the years since Sandy's occurrence, strides have been made, and are continuing to be made, to allow meteorologists to better prepare the public to deal with hurricanes such as Sandy.
So the things that the atmospheric scientists are working on now are trying to improve how we're able to forecast the intensity changes and the size changes and precipitation of a tropical cyclone. So there's a lot of effort going into understanding those processes so that we can integrate them into the forecast models and actually use them successfully real time.
Forecasters have also continued to make improvements in predicting the paths of hurricanes, with some stating that a 5-day hurricane outlook today is as accurate as a 3-day outlook was 2 decades ago. Perhaps Sandy's most beneficial impact in the years to come, if any, will be inspiring more people to take up the profession of meteorology, and in doing so, meteorologists can help assure that our society will be ready to deal with whatever natural disasters come along the way. Reporting for Weather or Not, I'm Michael Jablonski.
Student meteorologist Jimmy Wendolek back with your extended forecast. But first, we have to recap our forecast for Halloween weekend and the last few days of October. It looks to be an unpleasant start to the 3-day stretch as a low-pressure system moves through the region, bringing steady rain to the Commonwealth on Friday with high temperatures in the low 50s. The highs increase as we move through the weekend into the mid-50s on Saturday, with showers continuing through the state, especially earlier on in the day, before we begin to dry out on Sunday as that low moves to our north. A few sprinkles possible, but we are expecting mostly cloudy skies with high temperatures just below 60 degrees for any Halloween activities. Now, after this weekend, it's time to flip the calendars to November, put away the jack-o'-lanterns, and take out any Thanksgiving decorations, and it looks to be a cool start to November, with only 1 day out of the 5 next week, expecting temperatures above average. You see the downward trend of temperatures, especially as we get towards the back half of the week. High temperatures only in the low to mid-40s. Temperatures that we haven't seen here in State College in a very long time. Now, we are expecting mostly sunny skies on Monday to coincide with that peak in temperatures. Clouds increase throughout the week, with a weak disturbance bringing showers around for Wednesday, another system potentially bringing showers on Thursday, before overcast skies to end the week on Friday. That's it for our extended forecast. Your Whiz Quiz answer is coming up next.
And now, here's your Weather Whiz Quiz question. How much will it cost to adapt Africa to climate change per year by 2050? Is it A, 5 million, B, 50 million, C, 5 billion, or D, 50 billion?
And the answer is D, 50 billion. That's certainly a very expensive price to pay to adapt Africa to climate change, but if we do manage to reach that number, it will benefit humanity in the long run.
You're totally right, Jimmy. The sooner we're able to do so, the better off future generations of our societies will be. And with that being said, that just about wraps up this week's show. We want to thank everyone for watching, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. But until then, I'm Brian.
And I'm Jimmy. Have a great week.